We are back with another episode of the Bleed Lows podcast. I am joined by my co-host Jacob Brownson. But before we get into all of the Dodgers talk tonight, we have to address obviously the sad news that has transpired over the past week. As everyone's aware, Southern California and the city of Los Angeles have been devastated over the last several days by multiple wildfires that are still active around the area. Multiple families have lost everything in the process, and Jacob and I offer our deepest sympathies to those people and the families who are all still affected by this tragic series of events. On our website, DodgersBeat.com, our own Mike Salas, who everybody may know as Doomsal, wrote a great article that about the fires. In it, he shared his perspective and as a recently retired firefighter, and provided multiple, viewpoints and information on where to help those in need. If you have extra time, be a part of your community and volunteer at one of the many evacuation centers or donate to the American Red Cross. Every little thing helps out, and to those who have lost already so much and are continuing to lose more and more as these fires continue to rage on. The Dodgers, if anyone hasn't seen it yet, they have also partnered along with multiple other sports teams in the city of Los Angeles and California with Fanatics, partnering and selling these t-shirts with all of the fundraiser and going to multiple charities. The Dodgers will also have a distribution event on Friday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. At Dodger Stadium for the victims of the wildfires. Others will be held at the same time, some at SoFi Stadium and then others at BMO Stadium. But yeah, it's a unfortunate situation, especially with everything that's kind of going on in the Dodgers offseason. Everyone wants to be excited about it. But any other comments on this, Jacob?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that my heart is with the people of Los Angeles and everyone who's been affected by these wildfires. As someone who doesn't live in Los Angeles, I can't quite understand what people are going through, but I can understand the gravity of the pain and the loss. Los Angeles is the greatest city in the world, and it's only going to get stronger. Only uphill from here. It's going to be awesome rebuild.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine being in person. Like you mentioned, neither of us live in the city of Los Angeles. We aren't in the state of California, but just from an outsider's perspective, you're in the central time zone. I'm on the eastern time zone. Just looking at all the devastation, the pictures and the images that I've seen over the last couple of days, it's a tough pill to swallow. Especially, I visited Los Angeles, twice over the last 3 years, so I've seen a lot of those locations. So it's a very sensitive topic, but at least the Dodgers and other teams and multiple athletes, stars, celebrities, and just the everyday person like you and I are doing their part to help build it. So I know eventually, once everything dies down, the city will rebuild, and hopefully with baseball right around the corner, the Rams on tonight, looking really good, smacking the Vikings down. A lot of good things to keep some of those citizens in high spirits. But we do have a lot to talk about today in terms of the baseball side of everything. But before we get into that, let's thank our sponsor, BetOnline. BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, the NBA, college basketball to the NHL and UFC, BetOnline is your number one sports betting source for the new year. From touchdowns to three-pointers and hat tricks, BetOnline has you covered on every game, every play, and every win. BetOnline, the game starts here. And Jacob, where we're going to start out right now is where we're getting a lot of news throughout the day. Obviously, over the past couple of weeks, you and I and multiple other, Dodger media outlets have been talking about one name that's remaining on the free agent board right now, one name that has been linked to the Dodgers for several months, a matter of fact, and that is Roki Sasaki. So today we've got a lot more clarity on the entire situation, and basically it boils down to Sasaki has chosen his three final teams, and that includes the Los Angeles Dodgers, San Diego Padres, and the Toronto Blue Jays. So hearing all that, looking at all the news that we've gotten today, are you surprised that we are at this point right now where technically he can't sign into the 15th?
I'm not surprised that the Dodgers and Padres are finalists. I am surprised that the Blue Jays are there. I kind of figured it would just come down to two. There's definitely a narrative going on with the Blue Jays and free agents right now. I do think it's kind of moving faster than I thought. I kind of thought we would just know where he was going. I didn't think it would really get down to a finalist situation. My general belief was that he would just post on his Instagram or something like that. So it's going to be interesting, but I am a little shocked at the way it's played out.
Yeah, I still see some people on social media that were a little bit confused about his entire free agency because it was a little bit peculiar. Rob Manfred made it a thing to make sure that even though he was posted technically during the 2024 international signing period, he said that he could not sign into the 15th when the 2025 international period opens up. Not only does that just allow Sasaki to maximize on the potential contract that he gets, as if the money's the biggest deal out of all this, the most he could possibly receive is probably like in the 4 to 5 to maybe $6 million range if one of those teams that have a lot of pool money just invest all of it to him. Clearly, he's coming here because he wants to play. I am surprised just as much as you are about how quickly everything transpired in terms of, all right, these teams are 100% out. These are the 3 teams that I'm going to sign with, because there was multiple reports last week, and it just shows how everything can change super fast. That I think it was John Morosi. I mean, we know how Morosi can be viewed, especially with his, the yapper. That's the meme that you always see people talking about Morosi. But he mentioned last week that maybe Sasaki waits into the final 2 days of his signing period, which would be like the 23rd is when he has to sign. So you're thinking, all right, maybe this is going to drag on to the 20th, 22nd, somewhere in that ballpark. But now it seems like I'm kind of under the impression that as soon as he's eligible to sign, maybe even a couple hours before, maybe even tomorrow, we'll probably get like some sort of handshake agreement here. Seems like everything's moving really, really fast right now.
It does seem that way, yeah. It's hard to imagine a situation where this plays out until January 20th. It's not often you see something move this fast and then pause for 5, 6 days. So I really don't see that happening. I would go as far to say there's a chance a deal's already been agreed upon. That's not where I would bet my money, but I think it's certainly possible. Um, it it's really weird how things are playing out right now. It's definitely a situation that we're all kind of unfamiliar with. We haven't really seen a situation like this with an international free agent in the way it is with him being posted early in the certain deadlines. So it's going to make for a crazy next week or so.
And everybody's putting it in the chat right now. Obviously, you've seen it. I've seen it. Multiple fans have seen it as well. There was a video posted on X from forget who posted it. Possibly was a Padres fan. Kind of a video of Sasaki, probably during his meeting with the team that transpired yesterday. Could be today as well. Of him throwing at Petco Park in full out decked out Padres gear. You've seen the video. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think it really eliminates the Dodgers out of any type of contention to signing him? Or do you think it's kind of just nothing? This is typically what possibly happens in those meetings.
I really that video holds no weight with me really. I mean, there was reports that Otani met with the Blue Jays last year and his dog was decked out in Blue Jays gear. There was a picture of Sasaki in Padres gear a year ago. I think we're kind of at the point where we see clothes and we're so desperate for something that it's like that's a sign. I don't think it's a sign. The Dodgers probably gave him gear too. Um, this is something that happens pretty often because you want to be as generous to these guys as possible. You're trying to convince them to come play with you. You're going to give them gear in hopes that they can visualize themselves wearing your uniform, wearing your colors. It's really nothing. I could not care less about that video in all honesty.
I view it as it's kind of like, all right, you go to an interview here, the whoever you're interviewing for, they really want you to come there. So they're going to try to, shock you with some prizes, and the Padres are doing their part where when I look at it, we saw him throwing at a high school or the other day. And now a couple days later, he's still probably got to be in a throwing program. So I think today or yesterday, whenever that video was filmed, probably lined up for when he had his next throwing session. And then, hey, with everybody there, you're already at a baseball stadium. Why not just get your work in right away? I'm sure the Padres scouts, the coaches, player development people, and people in the front office, everybody that was there, players alike as well, they probably were interested in seeing him throw. So he goes out there. I don't really read too much into it like yourself, where it's like, I imagine teams like the Blue Jays probably gave him some gear, some t-shirts, some shorts, whatever. The Padres probably did the same thing. And then the Dodgers, I mean, we haven't really seen anything this entire offseason with him, like whether it's meeting them at the stadium, but then you also have to remember the whole stadium's under $100 million renovation. Where is he going to throw there? Is he going to throw it from the hill where the dirt is in the right field or left field? I wouldn't read too much into it just because of all those reasons I laid out. I just think it was, we've seen him in Padres gear before. You already said that as well last year. So I think it's just a pitch that teams do. Did the Dodgers get an opportunity to match that pitch and say, hey, come over here. We want to see you up close. Maybe we want to, read some of your pitches, see your velocity, see how you're feeling after your bullpen, because we are making an investment into you. But I don't think it's the end all be all that we're seeing a video circulating around the internet that he's in Padres gear, especially can't officially sign after, until the 15th. So a lot can change between now and then, right?
Yeah, and I wanna touch on the Dodgers side of that really quickly. I've been asking around, asking questions. Specifically, one thing I've been asking about is if the Dodgers did have a workout with Sasaki where he wore Dodgers gear. And what I've been told kind of is that they hadn't heard anything either way. There is not much coming from the Dodgers front office at all. And this person, if something was coming out, they would know about it. The Dodgers are keeping this very close to their chest. You're not seeing details of their meetings with Sasaki. The only thing that you've really heard is from the Dodgers that has gotten leaked is that they met with him the first time, but there's been nothing the second time. I posted this on X. The Dodgers front office is tight. You're seeing things come out from the Blue Jays and the Padres, but that's people are getting distracted by the access to information. That doesn't mean they're the favorites. That doesn't mean the Padres are the favorites because this video came out or because there's details of their meeting. All it means is the details of their meeting are more accessible. You can take that, however, that could be a negative for a player, even. But I'm not reading too much into anything that's come out or the lack of information from the Dodgers, because this is a known thing that the Dodgers like to keep things close to their chest.
I would say it benefits the Dodgers that, they keep things close to the chest, like you said, and, keep things low and keel. They don't let information leak out. Rarely do you see anything come out from Andrew Freeman, Brandon Gomes, and even Dave Roberts, they all have the information. They've met the player. They've probably met him more than once, I would say. If you're a finalist in this, they probably have had already that second meeting, and they've been in constant contact probably throughout this entire process. Andrew Freeman himself has been scouting Sasaki for years now. I mean, there's the video of him in Tokyo last year, watching Sasaki practice, and they walked up and talked to each other. So clearly, this is a player that the Dodgers and Andrew Freeman specifically have been coveting for some quite some time right now. And like I said, you can add the gear and everything like that. It doesn't really, it's not the end all be all. I think someone even put it in the chat. Ivan, college pitch. You're getting recruited by multiple colleges. If you're a star, 5-star athlete, they want you to join their program. Hey, here's this backpack. Here's this jersey. Here's this t-shirt, polos. Give this to all your families and friends. Please choose us. That's essentially what these teams are doing right now. They're trying to give them a pitch, and then they're like, hey, here, take some of our nice, MLB gear is not cheap. If you go on Fanatics, those shorts are like $80. The shirts, they're up there almost at $100 as well. So they're a pretty penny. Sasaki knows that he knows that they're trying to groom him into coming there. So it's just part of their pitch altogether. And then I'm interested in your thoughts and your comments on Bob Nightingale's tweet where he tweeted out, quote tweeted his own tweet saying that the Padres are cautiously optimistic. What does that even mean? What does cautiously optimistic mean?
Yeah, this is another thing. I, I'm not that moved by it. Cautiously optimistic. I think all three teams you could say are cautiously optimistic. Nightingale said the Padres are. Passan said the Blue Jays are. I have reason to believe that the Dodgers feel optimistic about their chances too. Optimism, it's not really a story. You have three teams here who have beat out 27 other teams as of right now to have a chance at this guy. Why would they not be optimistic? I think the Dodgers and Padres have both been optimistic that they were going to get Sasaki for a year now. I really don't think that's anything new. I think it's kind of just more information that people are seeing and reading into, but it's really not that telling at all.
Yeah, I mean, you could make the argument that the Dodgers are probably cautiously optimistic as well. I mean, even in the report the past couple days is that they've told pretty much everybody in their 2025 international class, like, hey, either seek out other opportunities or just wait until the 2026 period and then sign with us because they want to allocate all that money in this upcoming international signing pool to Sasaki. And that would tell me that's told multiple other insiders, especially people that cover prospects like Baseball America and all these other smaller ones, where they all still see the Dodgers as the favorites because of there's only really 2 teams that are doing this, and that's the Padres and the Dodgers, so that's where you get a little bit of like, all right, you see him in Padres gear, you get a little scared. That's probably where Bob Nightingale probably saw the video and he said, I would say they're cautiously probably optimistic that they're gonna get him. I mean, hell, he's got pretty much 3/4 of the uniform on already. What's next? Is he gonna get the jersey fitted, the number picked out? Are they gonna have the press conference ready, in center field and introduce Sasaki as the newest member of the Padres? You could say that about the Dodgers as well. Like we mentioned multiple times, they're very secretive about all this. Hardly anything leaked last year in the Otani situation. Yamamoto signing with the Dodgers was caught me completely off guard because there was reports of him, very close to signing with the Mets or the Yankees. Phillies had an offer coming in late as well. Dodgers ended up getting him for the massive contract he signed. So clearly I don't really look into whatever's coming out in terms of rumors with the Dodgers because even when there's hardly any, that lets me know that behind the scenes, Andrew Freeman, everybody in the Dodgers front office is doing their due diligence and they're trying as hard as they can to get this deal done. And I wouldn't be surprised if later tonight, maybe once this stream's done, maybe we hear some news break about a potential second meeting. Maybe that's set up either it's happening right now, maybe tomorrow, maybe on the 15th, he's supposed to re-up with the Dodgers again, like and say, hey, these are what these teams offer me. What can you offer me now? There's really so much information we can even get. And you even mentioned, the people that you've talked to, their answers were pretty vague. They don't really know what's going on regarding the Dodgers either. And everything with the Padres and everything that's going on today is completely new to everybody. So I wouldn't put too much stock in it. At the end of the day, the only person that knows where they're going to go is Sasaki in this whole situation. Any other comments on the Dodgers' involvement? The Padres film. What other comments you got on this whole situation?
Yeah, I want to talk specifically on the comment that it's significant because Nightingale only mentioned the Padres. That's because people in the Dodgers front office aren't going to talk to Bob Nightingale. They aren't going to tell him that they're optimistic. Like you just said, I'm not getting much from people. There's one specific person I talk to who should know a lot about what's going on in the Dodgers organization, and even they are not sure. They're keeping this as close to the chest as you possibly can. I don't think you're going to hear much from the Dodgers side until a second meeting has been done, even. I also do want to say back to the college recruitment thing. The whole thing when you're bringing someone in is you don't let them make another visit. If he comes to LA, usually you want to be the last visit. You want them to commit to you when they're at your place. If Roki Sasaki meets with the Dodgers again, I have a whole lot of confidence that he's gonna be a Dodger. That's just the big thing everyone says. Don't let them leave campus, because when they leave campus, you've pretty much lost them. If the Padres see Sasaki in LA, I think the narrative is going to change quite a bit.
Yeah, even on the Athletic, that I think it was either today or yesterday it was posted, and that's where there was more clarity on the Otani situation with Toronto. Apparently, he left their facility after touring the Rogers Center. I think he also went down to their spring training facility and toured everything down there to see what they were doing. He left with Blue Jays gear, Blue Jays bags, Blue Jays souvenirs for his dog and his fiance at the time, and he still ended up choosing the Dodgers. He still went back to the Dodgers for one last time, say, hey, these are the offers that I'm receiving. And the Dodgers ended up matching those, taking the deferrals, and then, the rest is history. And I think that's very similar to what's happening with Sasaki right now, where it's like they're doing their due diligence, all these teams, they're putting their mark in. And I agree with you where it's like, all right, if he didn't, ink and pen or like handshake agreement is where we're at right now, I would say the odds are still in the Dodgers' favor, and I'm trying to say that in the most unbiased way possible. I mean, is there any other way you can articulate that?
No, I mean, as Dodgers fans, we're naturally going to be a little biased, but from what I can tell in the most objective way possible, either something's already done with San Diego, or he's probably a Dodger. That's just kind of how I feel. That's not something I've been told, but again, he was in San Diego. He was with the superstars. He met with the coaches, the brass, all of this. If he makes a trip to Los Angeles, I really like the Dodgers' chances.
I would, we'll end on this with kind of Sasaki, unless the conversation takes us elsewhere. You look at coming into today, we're still kind of in the dark about, we know the teams, it was around 8 to 10 teams that have met with Sasaki that had, high interest in signing him. And then we start to see those teams dwindle and dwindle down. Is your confidence in the Dodgers signing him greater than where they were, I would say, like 8 or 10 hours ago?
I don't know. Because like the teams that were in on him, no one really believed they were in on him. I think I'm kind of in the same place. Even like talking to people, like there's not much information out there. There's not much to go off of. Um, I There hasn't been anything today that has changed my mind or changed my opinion on it. I still think he ends up a Dodger. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up a Padre.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it, the information that's came out, it's very sparse. His agent Joel Wolf has kind of said that it's an open book for Sasaki to sign pretty much anywhere. But then you get the contradicting reports. Well, maybe the big city media, the large media corporations wouldn't be too favorable to him, and that could be why maybe he turned down pretty much every East Coast team. New York media, Philadelphia to even offer them a chance to even have a conference. And then there's other reports out there like Jim Bowden, and I totally wholeheartedly disagree with this statement where he basically says, oh, well, Sasaki wouldn't have the amount of the spotlight to make any money on endorsements at all. I don't think that would be a factor if he came to the Dodgers, because I think it's very easy to be a star on your own, especially as a starting pitcher. Because I mean, at the end of the day, baseball is a team sport, but for the most part, it's between that guy on the mound, the guy on the batter's box, and that guy on the mound is going hopefully 4, 5, 6 innings. So that's a big bulk of the game. And then I even argued in my article today on Dodgers Beat where the trifecta of Otani, Yamamoto, and Sasaki just sounds like you're just going to be printing money at that point, whether you're the Dodgers and you're marketing the team in Japan and internationally all over Asia, or if you're, those Japanese players where you may see billboards of all three of those guys up there. Otani may have, the inside track. He said, yeah, I can get you a deal with New Balance right now. Let's get everything switched over. I don't agree with Bowden's comments on that regard, but I would say I'm a little bit more confident because if you get named as a finalist, I mean, that should, you know, boost up the score a little bit. But I think at the end of the day, we all knew it was always San Diego versus Los Angeles. I mean, that's what everybody said, before he was posted. That's what everyone said when he was posted. That's what people said last month, last week, an hour ago. It seems like at the end of the day, going to come down to those two teams right now. I don't think there's any ifs, ands, or buts about that. Sorry, Blue Jays fans. I mean, like, it sucks for you to come in, third again on a free agent. It seems like they've been practically interested in everybody, but you look at the factors. I mean, I still argue the Dodgers have the best situation for Sasaki. Potential to be put in a six-man rotation that he's used to in Japan. The health factor is an issue, but when you're in that type of rotation, the Dodgers are definitely, they know the writings on the walls with everything that they've dealt with the past 3 seasons with injuries. It seems like they're going to take their time with a lot of their starters this upcoming year. And then, you go into playing for a team that's a competitor and a team that wants to win, that is just coming off a World Series victory. And they despite the injuries to their pitching, they know how to develop pitching. They know how to get the most out of everybody that kind of touches, the baseball. There's only a couple people, a couple players that you can point to, Noah Syndergaard, that it just didn't work. But for the most part, it has. And I that's my arguments for why it just makes sense with LA. But I could see him realistically going to San Diego. I just don't see him going to Toronto though.
Yeah, and regarding the Padres' chances, let I want to talk about what has been important to him. Winning and development were the two main things. Right now, the Padres are shopping. They're listening on most of their stars. They've got a closer on a pretty good deal that they're shopping around right now, who's probably a top 10 reliever in baseball. There is nothing stable about the current Padres to the point where I think the Padres need him. They need starting pitching, and they don't have money to spend. They've got the ownership lawsuit going on, and they're trying to cut payroll. They need Roki Sasaki, and that could be seen as a good thing by him or a bad thing by him. Another thing with him, big question mark, is his durability. He's not going to throw 180 innings next year. The Dodgers already have that lined up with a six-man rotation. If he was on the Padres, he might be the ace, sure, but he's going to be expected to throw a lot of innings that I just don't think he's going to be able to throw next year. And I don't think that would be good for his development, as well as what starting pitcher have the Padres developed. They've got Yu Darvish and Joe Musgrove in their rotation, traded for both of them. Ryan Weathers was so bad they sent him to Miami. Matt Waldron is a knuckleball merchant and wasn't even good. Like, who have they developed? And I know Ruben Niebla is a super well-respected pitching coach, but at the end of the day, development doesn't lie. And they've developed some relievers, but what starting pitcher have they legitimately taken to the next level?
I
I
mean,
I
you
I
can
think
even
that's
look at
what
their
the Dodgers are
rotation
saying.
now. Dylan Cease from Chicago, Michael King, arguably their best starter last year collectively from start to finish. And they're going to arbitration with him. And he wasn't even for their system. And he had some good stuff with the Yankees. They just had a pretty deep rotation as is. So they trade him to a team that, like the Padres, who needed that pitching depth. The Dodgers, they may sign a lot of guys, but you can look at pitchers that are playing for them right now. I would say if you even look at their Fangraphs page, I would say most of their pitchers are from the organization, especially when you look at the bullpen. You got Emmett Sheehan, Gavin Stone. Obviously, they're injured right now. Michael Grove, Henriquez. You still got Dustin May, Tony Gonsolin, Yamamoto. I mean, they signed him, but still, you have to transition him over here. And then you got Clayton Kershaw, Bobby Miller, all these other guys that are homegrown or brought into the organization and haven't played anywhere else. So the idea that the Dodgers don't have a good pitching, arsenal or pitching strategy just doesn't make sense to me. I think people just look at the injuries, and yes, the Dodgers are the epicenter of this, arm and elbow uptick in injuries, but it's a league-wide thing, and it's based on the philosophy where, all right, if you throw harder, that's going to be more detrimental to your arm and your elbow. That's just common sense. And the Dodgers, they just value guys that can, just wing it back there on the mound. So, and the Padres, I mean, I talked to Roger behind the scenes. Me and Roger are the biggest Padres haters. If you asked me right now if the Padres are going to make the postseason in 2025, I would tell you no. I would tell you no for a couple reasons. I know it's the biggest rivalry in, I guess, in baseball right now. some are saying, but I don't necessarily, their offense, it can be streaky. They got a lot of aging contracts there. The whole pitching turmoil thing where they're taking some of their guys to arbitration. I think the team culture may take a hit. The front office has always been kind of hit or miss every year. It just seems like the Padres are the most inconsistent team. And then I look at a team like the D-backs, who they had Corbin Burns. They had the best offense in the National League technically last year, and they're coming off a World Series berth 2 years ago. So there's a lot of teams in this division. Sasaki can just slot in, doesn't have to be the guy, can develop and be on a chance to be a perennial World Series contender, because for the next 3-5, I would say the rest of Ohtani's contract, Dodgers are going to be in that boat of being a contender every single year. I don't think you can say that about the Padres right now. I think their window was last year, maybe this year, and then it's pretty much over, especially with this ownership thing going on right now between who wants total control. I mean, there was talks of relocation in those documents, shedding payroll like you alluded to. I feel like the only thing we've seen with the Padres is them trying to shop people, and that's not a good sign if I was a free agent.
Yeah, and there's just no stability there. This was their window. They have two of the top three worst contracts in baseball, maybe with Bogarts and Machado's albatross of a contract. He's a productive player right now, but we'll be looking at that contract in 2027, and we will be talking about it. Yeah, they're probably going to trade the batting champion last year, which I've got some negative things to say about Luis Arias, but he's still a productive player. He gets on base for you 35% of the time or whatever. He's a big part of their offense, and they're looking to trade him. They're looking to trade their best or one of their best relievers. Where's the stability? Where's the uphill climb there? Even the Dodgers are great right now, but even when you talk about developing pitchers, they turned Matt Beatty into River Ryan, who was a two-way player for the Padres when they traded for him. If I'm the Dodgers, I'm bringing up River Ryan. The Padres had this guy, had him playing shortstop, and now he's one of the most highly regarded pitching prospects in baseball. Now, he did tear his UCL and had Tommy John surgery, but the stuff is there. He was in the Padres farm and they weren't using him correctly. I think that's a pitch right there, is talk to River Ryan. Talk about the difference between the Padres organization and the Dodgers organization.
Well, interesting development. Roger did put it in the chat commenting. So apparently that original video of Sasaki throwing on X is deleted. I don't know why that would come up out of nowhere. Maybe someone did the trail. They tracked everything down.
Someone made a
told
call.
that person to delete that video.
Someone made a call.
It could be something to watch. Maybe they didn't want that video to leak out, because that's what we were talking about before we went live. We were like, where the hell was that thing recorded? Because we know there's apartments that are at, by Petco Park where you can see right into the stadium, but from that angle, it didn't look like it. So it clearly had to be somebody working in the stadium. And obviously there's year-round maintenance with the stadium, whether it's, people in concessions. The year is getting ready to start. Spring training is less than 35 days away. Maybe they're doing their due diligence, cleaning up the stadium and making sure everything's ready. Or it could just be somebody that works for the team that was out and about in the stands watching Sasaki throw. That's the thing that Ohtani held accountable to other teams. Maybe Sasaki does that as well. Would you read in too deep to that?
I definitely think there's a good reason it got deleted. But my thing is, like, I try not to read into people following people or stuff. I think that video was probably taken by a stadium worker and sent to the account that posted it. And now there was probably a text message in a group chat. Hey guys, who sent this video out? And there's some accountability being had right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something we're going to be watching over the next couple days. Clearly, Sasaki is going to be in the news right now. He's the next big free agent domino to fall, and he can sign with the team in 2 days. He's officially posted, I believe, on Wednesday is when the 15th. So he's eligible to sign with anybody. The new international pool signing period will open up. So he has until the 15th into the 23rd. I'm thinking something probably gets reported on the 14th late at night or on the 15th that exact day. I think he's narrowed it down far enough, and I think he's going to save us the time of talking about it right now. I already know you've kind of hinted at it right now. Final decision, you think he's coming to the Los Angeles?
If I had to bet money on it, I would be putting my chips on the blue square. Um, I have a really weird feeling in my heart, and I don't know if it's just me being cynical that he's gonna be a Padre. I think that's just me preparing myself for the worst. Be prepared for excitement, but prepared for disappointment. But if I had $1,000 in my hand right now and I'm given 2 teams he could possibly sign with, I would bet on the Dodgers.
Yeah, I still think it's 50-50. I think he can go either or with the Dodgers, the Padres. I do think those are the two teams that are clearly they're two of the three finalists, but I just feel like there's been enough smoke the last year, this past winter, that it's going to be one or the other. You have your reasons to pick the Padres, you have your reasons to pick the Dodgers. I still think with my gut and everything that I've read, written about, and researched, I still think he just signs with the Dodgers just because I feel like the writing's been on the wall. And you look at everything they've done behind the scenes, the international signings, they're putting them on hold. They're not having any information leak out. They've clearly made progress in a attempt to sign him without anything really leaking besides them saying, yes, we're really interested, and yes, we've had a meeting with Sasaki. So hopefully in the next day or two, maybe we start to get more information with the Dodgers, but that's what I'll say. And if he goes with the Padres, I wouldn't be shocked, but I wouldn't have expected it after everything I've kind of swallowed, all the information that he would pick them. So we'll see in the next couple days, and hopefully he's not. If he doesn't sign with the Dodgers, hopefully he signs with the Blue Jays. Not only just to not sign with the Padres, but also hell, just give them a win. I know they signed Jeff Hoffman, but it's not enough. It's not enough, Blue Jays faithful. Get somebody else to go play for Canada right now while you can. So we'll see what happens over the next couple days. But that's my locked in answer. Dodgers. You're feeling Dodgers too, possibly Padres. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
Anything else on this before we
just one
transition?
funny enough with Hoffman, the Blue Jays were actually the 3rd choice for him too,
They
'cause
were.
he failed 2 physicals before there. So, I think that trend will continue.
Yeah, so sorry, Blue Jays fans, but maybe you can have another guy that's out there that if you need a starting pitcher, and that is Jack Flaherty. There was an article released by Ken Rosenthal in The Athletic a couple days ago, and it wasn't really necessarily a rumor, more of him trying to talk about possible scenarios for remaining free agents, such as Pete Alonso, Anthony Santander, and Jack Flaherty alike, where they could possibly take a short term, maybe high AAV deal with multiple opt outs or an opt out at least after the first year. What made it interesting for me was Flaherty being involved in that camp, because it seemed like after the postseason and after the season concluded, he thought he did well enough to get that multi-year offer. It seems like Rosenthal is stating that most GMs around baseball, they want to see more consistency. You look at his 2023, it wasn't good. He got moved to the bullpen at the end of the season. 2024, he does rebound, but we also saw him have a pretty inconsistent Dodgers tenure, even though they did end up winning it all with it over the Yankees. Flaherty was not the reason, I would say, for that, because of his widely inconsistent starts, although he did give them a couple of good games. Would you be open for a Flaherty reunion at a 1 to 2 year deal with an opt out?
I think it's first of all, I think it's almost inevitable that Flaherty signs a shorter deal, and I'll kind of get into that in a second. I think if they miss on Sasaki, that's a solid pivot. Um, I don't know that they're gonna do that when they could get those innings from all of the guys that they have. Um, The problem with Flaherty and a long-term deal with Flaherty is his pitching profile really does not inspire confidence in a long-term deal. There's a very vast difference in his production when his fastball is 93 to 95 versus maybe 90 to 92. He gets hit around quite a bit at 90 to 92, and the last couple of years he has struggled to maintain high velocity as a 29-year-old. So when you're looking into an aging contract and getting towards the back years of those of that contract, you don't love to see that he is not good when his velocity is down and he's already inconsistent with his velocity, which is why I don't think he's going to get a 5 to 6 year deal or 4 to 5. I think it's going to have to be a shorter term deal.
I mean,
Um,
if you look at Flaherty, I think you hit it right on the head there, where it's like he's very inconsistent with his velocity. Sometimes he's, hitting, that 94, 95 mile per hour mark, but then an inning or two later, he may be hitting, barely hitting 90, 91. And that came back to bite him, especially with the Dodgers. His home run rate jumped up with the team. It was also pretty high all seasons regardless. Has a decent strikeout to walk clip, so that's good there. The FIP looked really good. The ERA ended up finishing at a 3.17, which is pretty solid for potentially a number 2 or number 3 starter. I wouldn't say he's necessarily an ace. He hasn't really shown that much consistency or high level of play since it's the second or third year in the show. 2019 finished top 5 in Cy Young voting. Hasn't really looked that way since. Multiple injuries, and hell, you even look at this this past season. Ken Rosenthal had reported that the Yankees nixed the deal because of his back. And I think that was definitely a lingering issue with him, especially with his inability to start on either regular rest or short rest at all, where he needed that extended day. And if he didn't get it, we saw what type of pitcher he was in the NLCS. You give him the game 1 start, 7 shutout innings, then you give him the game 5 start, gets shelled. And then you come back to Dodger Stadium for game 6. And that was on regular rest. So I can see why the Dodgers or any other team around the league per se is not willing to shell out the years and the dollar. And I think a reunion with the Dodgers, I think it's possible, but it really depends on what Sasaki does. If Sasaki does sign with the Dodgers, I wouldn't necessarily say there's a spot for Flaherty, but I could definitely see a situation where maybe they still sign Sasaki and then they still maybe they pivot to Flaherty as well. Maybe his market just collapses and he just takes a 1 year deal. Give him you were going to give Walker Buehler $21.5 million. Reportedly, David Vassay said they offered a very similar deal that he ended up signing with the Red Sox. So why don't you just give Flaherty that $22 million for 1 year? What everyone has to remember as well is that any free agent signing that the Dodgers bring in, they're taxed at 110%. So you get somebody for a 1 year, $20 million deal. That's almost more than double. So you're looking at, 1 year, $42 million deal. It's not going to work out that way, but it's not my money. If the Dodgers still see value in Flaherty, I could definitely see him going into this rotation because while it does look really strong, we've seen the injuries. We see a lot of these starters coming back from their injuries. Otani, May, Gonsolin, they've all had their issues. Bobby Miller had some shoulder and knee issues. I mean, I know they're going to re-sign Clayton Kershaw eventually. He's coming off various surgeries over the last 2 years. Tyler Glasnow narrowly avoided elbow surgery. We don't know how he's going to look, coming into spring training or to start the year. So there's a lot of question marks in this Dodgers rotation. So I think what they've been trying to do all offseason is they're just going to kill you with depth. And if they think they can get Flaherty on an affordable 1 year deal, I think they would take that every day of the week. Do you see a scenario where if his market does fall, the Dodgers bring in both these guys?
It depends how much it falls, as far as them signing him in general. I have a very hard time seeing a world where they go get Sasaki and Flaherty. I think that if that was an option, they would have made more of an effort to bring Walker Buehler back. I think Buehler wanted to sign before Sasaki made his decision. and the Dodgers didn't want to take that risk I think they probably offer him more than Boston if they really wanted to bring two more guys in. With Flaherty, the way I look at it, you have the injuries. On opening day, he's what, your fourth starter? He's going to get more than fourth starter money. It would take a severe market collapse for me to feel like that's a deal that should be done. Especially they they have a lot of depth and it's a lot of injuries, but there is a lot of depth. You've got Miller, who's made a lot of starts. I think he's going to have a big bounce back season next year. I know you do too. He's going to be very involved. You have Landon Knack, who people aren't high on him after the playoffs, but there's
I'm a
some talent
Landon Knack
there.
truther.
I am
I
also
believe
a
in him.
Landon Knack truther. I've been spreading the gospel for months. I believe in Landon Knack. He's gonna come back. He's gonna be strong. Um, even even if he's not this amazing pitcher, you're looking for a fourth or a fifth starter here. You've got 8 guys right now that could potentially serve that role. Don't forget about Ben Kasparius. That that's a dude who came up and performed. I love Ben Kasparius. I have so much belief in what he's going to do. I also I remember an interview where I think he said he's working on something that goes the other way because he throws fastball, slider, curve, cutter, everything moving into the bat. If he can find that fifth pitch that moves the other way, a changeup probably, he could be a really, really good pitcher. I think you have much more affordable options. The Dodgers can spend money, but they're still going to spend money wisely. And I think they would rather go with the guys they already have more than a Flaherty reunion, probably.
I think, and can be the last part of the Flaherty discussion before we move on our last topic. I think this is more of Flaherty wanting to return to LA than LA wanting to retain Flaherty. I think obviously the hometown kid, he enjoyed his time with the Dodgers, won a World Series. You know, was it the best in the second half? No. I mean, he had an ERA like almost doubled with the Dodgers, like high threes compared to, low high twos with the Tigers. I think he wants to get paid, but I just don't think the market's going to materialize. I think you're probably going to see him sign with whatever team he signs with is going to be either a 2 or 3 year deal. The only way he returns to Los Angeles is if it's a 1 year deal, and I don't think he's willing to risk that. But I don't know. I mean, how much would you be willing to risk to take a 1 year deal and prove it with the Dodgers and have a chance to win another ring? I just don't think the Dodgers are necessarily going to give him that chance. But if they lose out on Sasaki, I think it would be a great plan B.
I definitely think the Dodgers will consider it. I have no idea what the Dodgers are thinking when it comes to Jack Flaherty. No one really knows what they're thinking when it comes to Jack Flaherty. It's not being talked about. His market isn't really being talked about in general. If I had $1,000 right now and I had to bet on it, I would say a reunion is unlikely, but it also would not be the least surprising to me.
Gotcha. Yeah. Last topic of tonight's live is the Dodgers recently agreed to 4 of their 5 arbitration eligible players. Um, Looking at everything, they got Michael Kopech for a 1 year, $5.2 million contract. Gratterall for a 1 year, $2.98 million contract. Banda got the $1 million for the year, and Evan Phillips gets $6.1 million for next season as well. The one player that they couldn't come to an agreement with before the deadline was Alex Vesia, who filed at $2.3 million, and the Dodgers filed at $2.05 million. Keep in mind, Vesia, according to MLB Trade Rumors, was projected for about $1.9 million. So the Dodgers offered him more than his projection. Are you surprised that they're about any of these, signings? Are you surprised that the Dodgers and Vesia couldn't agree to a contract?
Not particularly. I think the Dodgers like where they're at with them being above his estimated value. I think people are kind of overstating when they say that why are the Dodgers being stingy over 300,000? They probably feel like they've offered him a good contract. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think you could even see them come to an agreement on a multi-year deal after this. I think that's very possible. Maybe extend him 2, 3 years. That you've seen them do that before in arbitration. It wouldn't surprise me at all. Um, I really don't know what to say about it. I mean, they probably feel like they put a good number out there. Vesia probably feels like he put a good number out there. And for the record, Alex Vesia is worth more than $2.3 million right now. The problem is the system is the way that it is, and people early in arbitration just don't make what they should arguably make a lot of the times. Alex Vesia is a very valuable baseball player. If he was a free agent right now, he would get a pretty good contract. He's worth more than that. The question is, what are the Dodgers willing to give him within the system that is currently in place?
Yeah, as of right now, they have until now and later this month, early February, to come to an agreement of some sort of contract. You alluded to an extension. A lot of people expect that to possibly happen, maybe buy out his last year of arbitration, get into like a 2 or 3 year contract with around that $2 million base salary per year. So I could definitely see that happening. Vesey has been a huge part of the Dodgers bullpen. He's been one of the best. He was one of the best, if not the best, left-handed pitcher in terms of relief pitching last year. Dodgers, they're still heavily invested in the relief pitching market in terms of free agency. I mean, I feel like every day we still see more smoke on Tanner Scott. So I don't know if that's maybe going into their decision with all this. But like you said, it's more of a system thing. Vesia on the open market clearly gets more than $2 million. But the Dodgers, in terms of how arbitration works, they believe he's only worth the 2.05 right now. I mean, I could see the argument because if you look at his 2023 season, it was kind of a disaster, really up and down, got optioned to the minor leagues, came back up, and still was a little bit not of himself. But if you look at the years prior, since the Dodgers got him, I think it was in 2021, 2022, he was really good as well. And then this past season, he was pretty much excellent. I just hope they don't go to arbitration because if you look at any information about players that have with their teams, it just is never good news. The Dodgers, for the most part, have avoided the entire process altogether. They usually like to sign some of these guys. I mean, if you look at the beginning of the offseason, they avoided arbitration immediately with Dustin May and Tony Gonsolin by getting them to sign 1 year deals right away. So the Dodgers like to do it. Their last arbitration hearing was in 2020 when they did it with Jock Peterson and Pedro Baez. So, and they ended up, nothing really came out of that. Obviously, both players didn't stay with Los Angeles after that season. So we'll see what happens over the next couple of days. Any other notes on the arbitration? Are you surprised? I feel like the big one here is that Kopech, for as good as he is, 5.2 got exactly what his projected ARB number was. A lot of people around baseball thought he could have gotten more, but I think looking at all these numbers, they look pretty solid to me.
Yeah, the system is the way that it is for a reason. Because if James Outman hit arbitration after last year and you were projecting a contract for what he would honestly fairly be worth, he hit 20 homers last year. James Outman, if the system was different, would make more money than what he provided the Dodgers this year. So there's a reason the system is the way that it is. I felt good about the Kopech contract. I think 5.2 is a good number for him because he's been dominant, but he's also not been good when he was with the White Sox. So it goes both ways. Sometimes people are undervalued, sometimes they're overvalued. There's nothing wrong with a player asking for more. That's where they see their value at. And there's usually nothing wrong with a team putting the number they feels out there. There are some cases where people are just trying to be cheap. I don't think that's the case with the Dodgers, given their reputation of never being cheap.
Yeah, I mean the Dodgers clearly have the money. If you look at their payroll number year after year now, especially in the new Otani era, clearly they can spend money. But if they can save a couple pennies here and there, that's what the arbitration process is for. My bold take with this is that they won't go to arbitration with Vestia. I think they will agree to a contract, especially after this whole Sasaki situation is done and over with, which we hope is, I would say, by the weekend, and then they figure out the rest of their roster. Do they re-sign Kike Hernandez? Do they reach an extension with Vesia or any of these other relief pitchers in the market? You're going to see the Dodgers get really, really active here, especially if they lose out on Sasaki, because that kind of changes a lot of their plans that they may have already had. They get Sasaki, it accelerates what plans are currently in effect right now, because that was the game plan all along. So it's going to be really busy here on the Bleed Lows podcast, DodgersBeat.com. We're going to have a lot of content coming out. And I already mentioned it earlier in the show, less than 35 days until spring training. Obviously, the Dodgers have to get to Glendale, Arizona a little bit earlier than most because they start the season again early this time in Japan compared to Korea last year. We talked about a lot today, Jacob. Is there anything else? Any closing statement by yourself?
Not particularly. It's going to be a wild week the next week, and I'm hoping Sasaki's a Dodger. If he is, he's going to be great. If he's a Padre, he's going to be terrible. That's my stance on that.
True Dodger fan speaking there. We love you if you come here. We will hate you if you choose the Padres. But yeah, it's definitely going to be a situation to watch. Like I said, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Make sure to follow us on social media on X, Facebook, Instagram. Bleed Those podcasts. We got DodgersBeat.com as well. We're extremely active on both fronts. We even have our all Spanish version of the podcast as well. We got a couple episodes that you guys can check out there. We got interviews with Joe Kelly recently that have kind of made their rounds around the internet recently. And with the season getting ready to start, we're going to have more player interviews, pregame, postgame, and definitely more stuff and discussions between Jacob and myself and a bunch of others. So it's a good time to be a Dodger fan. It's a good time to be a subscriber. So we'll see you on the next one, our next live. Hopefully it is a breaking news live for Sasaki, which I imagine he does sign this week. But other than that, that'll be it for tonight. We'll see you on the next one.